The wind howls as it sweeps down from snow-capped ridges, slicing through steep ravines above the gray mirrors of mountain lakes. On the shore, pressed against slippery rocks, stands a house. Inside, a woman. Her husband has gone to sea, not for a day or two, maybe a week, perhaps a month. Maybe he won't come back at all. In these parts, where winter sun is a rare visitor, the cold cuts straight to the bone. Waiting here isn't just longing, it's a test of survival. It's constant tension. A woman left alone with the elements, solitude, and uncertainty. Here, at the edge of the world, life and relationships work differently. Feelings go unspoken. The resolve to make it through another day comes naturally, while harsh horizons stay silent and hearts clench from the oppressive quiet. In a world where men vanish beyond the horizon for months on end, where the only connection to the outside world is by water, and cold seeps through the thickest walls, traditional ideas about faithfulness and family take on special meaning. This isn't a world of romantic dramas and strict moral codes. This is a world of harsh necessity, where life is the ultimate value, and every night is a trial. Survival breeds not only physical toughness, but unique social mechanisms. They might seem strange or even shocking to outsiders, but for those living in the fjords, they're as natural as high tide and low tide. Look at these villages, squeezed between mountains and sea. Inside them, an invisible struggle for existence. The men are fishermen. Their work is constant danger. They head out in small boats far into the Arctic Ocean, where waves tower like houses and icy winds instantly turn vessels into chunks of ice. Before heading to sea, before long separation, there's a farewell. It's special. No room for tears or long speeches, just a firm handshake, eye contact, and unspoken understanding. This might be the last time. With this knowledge, men leave, abandoning women and familiar life on shore. For the women left behind, long days and nights stretch ahead. Days filled with waiting, nights filled with cold. And not just physical cold. The home becomes both fortress and prison. There's always work, mending nets, preparing supplies, managing the household. But no amount of work replaces the warmth of human presence. In the long polar night, loneliness becomes an unbearable burden that saps strength and kills hope. In a world where everything serves survival, loneliness is a luxury you can't afford.
Here, giving in to despair isn't acceptable. Fjord women are the backbone of these communities. They're strong, resilient. They make decisions and take responsibility. While men battle the elements at sea, women fight cold, hunger, and isolation on shore. They don't wait for help, they act. The need for warmth and support creates what you might call otherness. In these parts, there's no room for prudishness or judgment about what helps you survive and keep your sanity. In a community where everyone depends on everyone else, one person's strength is a shared asset. A woman's strength here often shows in her ability to unite with others. Reality dictates its own rules. A cold hearth and empty bed aren't just discomfort, they're threats to health and mental balance. Where threats arise, you need to act as life demands, not as prescribed by books written by authors who never knew northern ice. Here, at the edge of the earth, people learn to be practical, to see the soul rather than the form, and to understand that warmth and closeness aren't subjects for moral debates, but conditions for survival. Understanding this harsh truth is the first step to understanding life by the fjords. The sea takes men, and winter tests those left behind. Every day survived is proof of resilience, every gesture part of an ancient way of life created by a community surviving against all odds. Where men go to sea, winter seems endless, and loneliness becomes not just an emotion, but an external threat. Cold seeps under clothing when there's no other body nearby for warmth. Long dark hours pass in silence, not a single voice to chase away fear. Under these conditions, traditions emerge that might seem like violations of norms for outsiders, but for locals are part of their way of life. This tradition was unspoken and optional. It went by different names, sometimes with irony, sometimes with understanding. One name was warming the bed. While her husband was at sea, a woman could welcome another man into her home, even into her bed, not for intrigue or romance, but for warmth, support, and relief in a world so lacking in all of these.
Why wasn't this considered betrayal? Here, they valued not the abstract concept of faithfulness, but survival and community welfare. Men going to sea knew every departure could be the last. Storm, iceberg, breakdown, and the boat vanishes forever. What mattered was that the wife wouldn't be left alone with cold and hardships, that someone would be there to help and support her. This was unspoken social insurance, a solution that let life continue, even if the husband didn't return. In small, isolated villages, hiding anything is impossible. But instead of condemnation, silent agreement prevailed. They saw this not as sin, but as necessity. A woman who preserved her home and didn't break under the weight of loneliness was respected. If she needed another person's support for this, who would dare judge her? The rule here was, one person's survival ensures everyone's survival. The choice of who could warm the bed wasn't random. Usually it was a neighbor or another fisherman whose boat stayed ashore this time. This was a form of trust. The woman let him into her home and life, while he took on part of the responsibility, knowing the legal husband might return. This wasn't a thoughtless act, but a serious, unspoken agreement between two people. In long, cold nights, the warmth of another body isn't luxury. It's a life necessity. It was a way to get warm, feel less alone, receive and give comfort. The women in this story aren't victims or frivolous creatures. They showed strength and resourcefulness to maintain homes, raise children, wait, and find ways to survive without losing heart. Their virtue was measured by strength of spirit and care for the home. They made their own decisions based on the realities of their lives. A key element of this tradition was the home, especially the bedroom. In long months, when storms raged outside and silence reigned inside, the home was the last line of defense. The bed became not just a place to sleep, but a source of warmth and support, where boundaries blurred between duty, necessity, and the desire not to be alone. In the fjords, they didn't ask, "Did you manage to wait for your husband alone?" Here, they asked, "Did you manage to survive this winter?" The answer lay not in formally following rules, but in the warmth, closeness, and understanding that held the community together.
Winter retreats. Days grow longer, and the sea that was a barrier for long months begins to recede. A familiar boat silhouette appears on the horizon. The husband returns. For many, this might be a moment of truth or dramatic confession. But for fjord dwellers, return means return to certainty, to family, to familiar routine. If bed warming had occurred, it didn't become grounds for tragedy. Men rarely remained ignorant. In a small village, keeping secrets is impossible. Often, a man going to sea knew or suspected someone would help his wife get through the separation. In most cases, this was accepted with understanding. His main desire was for his wife to survive, preserve the home, and be ready to meet him if he returned. His return meant restoring familiar order, not investigating the past. Here, at the edge of the world, their own value system operated, different from the urban one. There, far from the fjords, morality is often dogmatic and detached. Here, morality is a function of survival. This way of life allowed the community to persist. Women capable of surviving winter, preserving homes, and finding support while their men were away were objects of respect, not condemnation. Today, this tradition is rarely practiced in its original form. The world has changed. Fishermen have radio communication. Villages are less isolated. But its memory lives on in stories and folklore. For descendants of fjord dwellers, this isn't cause for shame, but a reminder of the price of survival and the strength of ancestors capable of finding warmth and support under the harshest conditions.